I intended to carry on the talk on Heart Sutra, but then I only have 40 minutes, so somehow I changed my topic to Introduction of Buddhism, which may be helpful to them, but it's unfair for people who already understand, but you can treat it as a review. The 18 realms, we're living within the 18 realms, and I've been reviewing this all the time, that's why I can remember them. And it's good for me to repeat it again and again so that you can remember. Repetition is very important in remembering. First question. I asked my wife to join me in meditation. She says, why? I say to gain enlightenment. She says, where are you going? I'm already there. Question, is it possible to be enlightened, not knowing it? Well, so I think the answers provided by your wife, she must have thought it out thoroughly before she gave you the answer. Maybe she researched into Google to find out some answers to philosophical questions in Zen. When she says, where are you going? I'm already there. I'm not. Well, why don't you say this? Next time when she gets angry and argue, well, you told me you're already there. How come When he gets mad, then you say, you're already there, so you're not there yet, right? She said, why? To join the meditation, she said, why? She does not understand the objective of meditation. It's just like when I remember when I first, when I was at school or at university, I said, well, I've become a vegan, vegetarian. The response of my fellow students, the first response is, why? Eating meat is so great, so good, so why you become a vegan? It seems strange to them. Because they don't know. Now more and more people know about it. So, is it possible to be enlightened? Yes, of course it's possible to be enlightened. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is to understand the truth as it is. But in order to understand the truth, you have to put your mind at ease first. In other words, you have to allow your mind to be clear of all these pollutants in order to understand its purity. In order to understand the close to perfection of nature, you must not pollute your environment. If you're polluting rivers and cutting down trees and hurting animals, and you're destroying the environment. Now, if you're destroying the environment, how can the environment provide you with the purity of nature? You're destroying it. So, is it possible to be enlightened? It's for sure possible to be enlightened. But let me ask you another question. Have you cultivated enough causes to be in your path of enlightenment? If you're always doing killing, lying, sexual misconduct, drinking, egoistic, you're doing all kinds of bad deeds, you're not on your way to enlightenment. Have you made enough causes, main cause, secondary causes to lead yourself automatically into that path of enlightenment? If you have, for sure, because if there are causes, there's an effect for it, waiting for you. That I know. You must build up all these causes to that destination of enlightenment. if you want to do anything successful, you have to accumulate, you have to build up all these causes. So there's nothing that you cannot do positively. So if you are 65, 75, you're 65 years old, you are on of the age of retirement, you've always been dreaming about getting a degree, enroll yourself at university. They may relax your admission requirements. Don't think that I'm too old for it. They said I'm too old. There was a monk by the name Fa Xian. He traveled to India at the age of 68, across the Himalayas, across the desert, for 3 years to 5 years. And he reached India and he started to learn the Indian language and the Indian philosophy. When he came back, he's already 70, 76, 77. So it's never too late. How can you say it's not possible for enlightenment? Have you have all those causes? If you want anything to be successful, you're just about 25, 26, 27. You still don't depress, just don't go into depression. Don't think negatively. You always have a lot of chances to move forward. Whatever your mind can help you to think, it will help you to lead to that success. So you want to be a musician, you like music, and you started to learn music now, and you're a 30-year-old. I have seen 45-year-olds started to learn music, and they became successful at 60. Become a master of a certain musical instrument. So that at 45 years of age, if they quit it and never got back to it, so they never become a musician. Is it possible to be enlightened not knowing it? You know. Whether you're enlightened or not, you know yourself. We don't have to tell you. You know that, oh, as compared to many years ago, I'm a different person. Maybe you're happier. You are different if you are enlightened. So that's the first question. Third question, I thought UBC had undergraduate studies in Buddhism. Has that program ended? Also, how is your eczema? I thought UBC had, UBC had undergraduate students in Buddhism, yes. They have a few courses of Buddhism. They have Professor Cheng, I met him a few years ago, 2 years ago. I don't know if he's still there. They used to have Professor Ida, and he passed away. Professor Ida specialized in Madhyamaka, Karika. They used to have Professor Lopez. They used to have Professor Hervist. All those are famous international scholars. Professor Hervist translated the Lotus Sutra. And some of them are Chinese language expert. Hervist is. He learned Chinese for many, many years. When I was at University of Toronto, at my 4th year, I met a guy. He was studying PhD in something about Eastern culture. And surprisingly, he came to me one day and he talked to me in Chinese, very fluently. And I asked him, when did you learn? Just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he took courses and he studied and learned. And after 2 years, almost like, well, have you been? I said, have you been to China and lived in China for any period of time? No, I haven't been. He just practiced on campus. 2 years, and he was able to speak the language well. But he studied every day. He really intensively studying for it. So that goes to prove, have you have enough causes to lead you to where you are? So it's just 2 years. So there's undergraduate studies in Buddhism. Unfortunately, UBC has a very restricted budget. They cancel some positions, some professorship positions, but they reopen now. I think they got donations from the whole family. So they have Professor Cheng, they have other professors to start to revive it. I don't know if they have. I always have a dream of building a small little academy in here. And I even created a name for it, just to find out the other day that the name was used up already by people. International Buddhist Academy. So I check into it's been used. So how about a college, International Buddhist College? Oh, it's been used. So people have used this. So I plan to have a small little institute in here, a college in here, about 20, 30 monks, of course some laymen, and we set up a curricula studying all these different sutras. We want people to study in 3 languages: Sanskrit, Chinese, and English, of course. So I may even invite Sri Lankan monks to come here, and they specialize in studying Chinese. So when they go back to their own country, they can talk about the Mahayana Buddhism. Sri Lankan studying Chinese, 3-4 years intensive study would do. And of course studying Sanskrit. So we need to set up a curricula. You can sit in, or you can be a layman. You can enroll the course. That hopefully we can make that come true. But all these things I really have to contribute myself towards it, and I must be free from doing other things. I must be sound enough. If I have eczema, how can I do this? I've been scratching all the time on this. But this is my karma. This is my karma. There's a true story written in autobiography of Xuanzang. Xuanzang is a monk who traveled to India about 1,000 years ago, 900 something years ago. At the age of 32, 33, he traveled to India through the Silk Road, rich India, studied in India for 17 years, studied the language, the culture, the philosophy, and brought a lot of sutras back and set up Translation Academy. And at that time, there was a monk in Lolanda Monastery by the name Silabhatra, who was teaching Yogacara school of Buddhism. You know Yogacara school of Buddhism? Consciousness only, studying detailed consciousness. And his name is Silabhatra. And he was approximately about 100 years old at that time, 103 years old at that time. And he always had sickness. I don't know what kind. It mentioned the sickness is he got boils and rashes on the skin. And it's intolerable. He once thought of committing suicide because of his suffering. At that time, he was about over 100 years old. He was thinking of suicidal attempt because he couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand his sickness, his skin sickness. And one day, he had a dream. There was a golden bodhisattva descending from the sky, and he said, Silabhatra, don't think about committing suicide. You were a king in your previous life once, and you ordered the killing of many, many people. What you are suffering now is karmic suffering. That's why you have the sickness that you have. But 3 years later, there will be a monk from the Eastern Hemisphere, from the Eastern world, and he will be coming to learn in Mount Lolanda University, and you have to teach them because he would spread the Dharma to the East in the future. He is now on his way. That is Xuanzang. And then Silabhatra asked the name of the Bodhisattva, and he said, I'm Manjushri Bodhisattva. And then the golden Bodhisattva disappeared. So when Xuanzang first arrived at Nalanda University, he requested to see, to kneel before and prostrate before the abbot of the temple, Silabhadra. And so he prostrated and said, "Where are you from?" And then Xuanzang said, "I'm from China." And so they have a short conversation. And when did you start? I started 3 years ago, traveling, and now I reached here. And then Silabhadra started to cry. Because you are the person that Manjushri Bodhisattva told me that I will be teaching. So he started to cry. He started to tell his disciple, that's the first person from China talking about. So Silabhadra taught Xuanzang all he knows about Yogacara. He concentrated in teaching Yogacara to Xuanzang for 15 months. The first time. So that's the first time, the first conveyance, the first talking of the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra for 15 months. There's a sutra, there's a sastra, Abhidhamma. There's a sastra called Yogacara Bhumi. Yogacara. You know what Yogacara means? Yogacara means in harmony. Harmony. Bhumi means state. The state of putting your mind in harmony with everything surrounding you. And it has 100 fascicles or 100 volumes. And he was able to finish teaching him in 15 months for the first time. And then he went through a second time to teach him for 9 months. So you can see, even someone so wise, so intelligent as Xuanzang, and some teachers so intelligent and wise as Silabhadra, they still have to talk 2 times on a sutra in order to understand it. So later, Xuanzang brought back this Yogacara Bhumi Sastra to China and translated into 100 volumes. And what it contains both the Mahayana and the Hinayana Buddhism. So if you say, I haven't studied Buddhism before, if someone be your mentor personally and teach you the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra, if you really have mastered it, you master almost everything about the Buddhist teaching. Because it contains also the Prajna Paramita in there. It also contains the Madhyamaka philosophy in there. It also contains the Hinayana, all the Hinayana philosophy in there. Other than just the theory, it contains also how to practice it. The samatha, the vipassana. I have this wild dream because there's no English version of this Yogacara Bhumi Sastra. I have this wild dream that one day, if we have an institute in here, we can form a committee, a group to translate that into English. That would benefit millions of people in the future. And that we still have to see whether causes would come true for this. But I believe in building up these causes. If we say, no, we're not going to do it, it's too tough, it's too hard, it's too long, you're finding all kinds of reasons not to do it, then you can't do it. If you say, I must do it, it has to be done, then you can do it. That's the difference between heaven and hell. Just a thought. What am I talking about? Getting back to this. How is your asima? I don't know. It's still there. People told me that it's very difficult to get rid of it. And I come across an acupuncturist. She said that the only way to get rid of it is to let everything come out of it. So let all the eczema is the poison inside. He said, let it come out. Don't stop it with steroid. If you steroid it, you're just stopping it. You're not taking out the bad roots. You're just stopping the branches, cutting the branches. So he said, don't apply any steroid onto it. Just let it come out. And she kept on reminding me. I said, let it come out. It's unbearable. I mean, it comes out and all over the place. So it's all over the place now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, next question. When I don't have a question to ask while I do, what this means, lots of questions in my mind, but when I am thinking about what to ask, then there's nothing came to my mind. Why is it like that, like this? You have a lot of questions to ask, but when you come to write it down, you don't know how to write it down. You need some training as to how to formulate your questions, how to put your questions in the right words. There's so many questions you can ask. You must know how to summarize what you've got in your mind. Maybe it's because of the training. You don't have that kind of training when you were young. Well, you think about how you can do it. Meditation teaches us to focus on our breath. How can we understand our mind and oneself through this process? Meditation contains two parts to it. One is samatha, the other is vipassana. Samatha is how to concentrate. Because if you don't concentrate, then if you cannot even concentrate, you cannot control your mind. And vipassana is insightful concentration. That means other than just concentration, not straying away, you really have to build up your wisdom. You must know how to contemplate. You have to have the wisdom element in it. Not just have the concentration element, the building up of the wisdom element in it. But the first step, of course, is just not to monkey straying away, going astray. Because our mind is like a monkey going everywhere. Now you pull that monkey back and ask the monkey to sit still. That's the first step. In other words, your thinking is not desultory thinking, it's a concentrative thinking. Once you pull it back, you have the good concentration, then your mind is under your control. When you understand your mind is under control, how can we understand our mind? When your mind is under control, it's much more easier to understand your mind when it's out of control. By understanding your mind, that means in the first step, you must not do bad deeds. Because your mind is out of control. You lie, you steal, you commit sexual misconduct, you kill. All this is because your mind is not under your own control. You yell, you argue, you curse, because it's not under control. When it's under control, with the foundation of morality, you know what is right and what is wrong. Then you're building up all kinds of good energy in you. When you build up good energy, then you're being not affected by bad energy. That means you don't go through the suffering that much that would deter you from further enlightenment. Remember, if you have a lot of suffering, you cannot meditate, you cannot enlighten yourself. If you are sick, how can you practice? So it's very important that you build up good energy so that the bad effects will be postponed until later. So that's why we're always chanting and also asking Bodhisattvas for help to build up good energy, to not get into bad ones. If you are seriously sick, you cannot practice anymore. If you are so sick that you are facing death, then you have to go. No more enlightenment. There's a karmic force that pulls you down. So by concentration, you understand your mind by concentration, and then you do insightful meditation. What does it mean by insightful meditation? Like the sattha, pana, the four contemplations. There's so much to talk about, but you're on your way if you can focus your mind. Learn your samatha first. Next question. Are there daily morning meditation available here at the temple? Daily morning meditation if we don't have, but daily morning prayers we have. And we started at 5 o'clock. Can you come at 5 o'clock in the morning? Maybe you start sleeping after certain TV shows at 4 o'clock. So, morning prayers is at 5. As a Buddhist, should we be mindful of how our actions affect the environment? To live a green lifestyle, of course, you should be mindful. Be mindful of our actions affecting the environment. Yes, we should. Start with yourself first. You be a vegetarian, then you're helping the environment. There's so many ways you can help the environment. Next, what is your view on some sex relationships? I met 2 gay women, and she said the Dalai Lama didn't agree with gay relationships. Any kind of relationship, whether it is between husband and wife, man and a woman, or man, woman with women, all this relationship that induces desires in the mind. That's why monks and nuns have to be celibate. They lead a celibate lifestyle. Because, and if you are practicing meditation, if you have relationship like that, it's very difficult for a practitioner of meditation to achieve a high level once you always commit into that kind of relationship. In other words, for meditators who avoid relationship like that, it's easy for them to be successful in doing meditation than someone who's always involved in a relationship. When you're involved in a relationship, you tend to create a lot of mental affliction. Many problems may come out from the relationship too. When you're living with someone, you have a lot of concessions to make. Not just for yourself. A lot of arguments, financial arguments, relationship arguments. If you have children, you have further complications. You give birth to children, you have to nurture them, babysit them. You have to make sure that other than the job that you are taking, you also have to have a babysitter, a part-time or full-time, or you have to hurry back home to cook, look after the baby. You have children to look after. How can you practice? You have a husband or a wife to look after. How can you practice? You are just by yourself and you're already busy enough with life. If you have one extra person to live with you, even though you always be in harmony, which I really doubt if you always be in harmony, no argument, you still have to spend a lot of time with the other person. Last question. In the nature of the human ego, one that can ever be overcome across the planet. So there's no longer living in the competitive cutthroat state of reality today and up till now in recorded human history. What you mean is the nature of the ego can be overcome? Of course it can be overcome. The ego can be turned into altruistic attitude. In other words, the seventh consciousness can be purified into enlightenment. It will change. So everything is possible. Nothing stays the same. What do you choose it to be? First question. During 3 years I work one place, nighttime. I try to not hate with anger, but physically I'm so tired. In the end, I lose this job. Now I'm happy and sad, but now I'm happy but without a job. You are sad too, so you are sad and happy. everything is based on karma. I don't know, you haven't got a full-time job and your part-time job makes you so physically tired, and probably, I'm just guessing, you don't want a job. You either quit or you either get fired, I don't know. So the consequence, of course, every cause will lead to a consequence. And if you trace back to the beginningless origin, we don't talk of an origin. Whenever, when we talk of a beginning origin, you're contradicting yourself. We don't talk about a beginning. Only dualistic thinking we talk about origin. Anyway, we put that aside. We can talk so much about the concept of origination. In the modern days, especially in Canada, most people get enough means to get by, but not enough meaning to live on. I don't know if you know what I mean. I mean, there's a welfare check, you don't need a lot of money to live. You have enough means because the government will support you. If you are in another country, without mentioning the name of the country, if you don't have a job, don't have money, you got starved and die in the street. Nobody would care. The government won't say, "Come into my bank, my food bank, and then they give you some food to eat." They won't do it like that. You just die on the street. I don't know which one is better. The people there work much harder. They really have to struggle. And in here, you have enough means to live by, but you have no meaning to live for. Do you have that meaning, that objective to live? If by living life, it says I have means to live, and I have my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner, and go partying, and I spend my time doing this, and finally when it comes to the final moment when I leave, what did I do? I've done nothing. I just nurture this body until it dies on me now. I remember the first time when I arrived in Canada, I arrived in Vancouver, and then I took a train to Toronto. We call that either the CN Railway or the CP Railway. It still exists? CN and CP still exist? CP Air did not exist anymore. We used to call CP Air and CP CN, and CP Air no more, not anymore. And now we still have the CP and the CN. So I bought a ticket to Toronto, 3 days and 2 nights. We get to Toronto. So I was sitting in a coach ticket, coach section. The coach section meaning no booth to sleep. You just sit in there, and there was a guy sitting next to me. We got on in the train station, and I realized this guy's back is a little hump on the back, and not too much, but a little bit of like at the back, and he was sitting there and he was coughing all the time. Quite a lot of nuisance for me, coughing. And so we traveled for about 6-7 hours, and we went through the Rockies. We looked back at the spiral tunnel. Oh, wonderful views with the spiral tunnels, and we joke and we talk. And finally, I found out from him that I said, "Where are you going?" "I'm going back home." When did you leave home? I forget the name of the town. It was a small town. They stopped at the small town. And when did you leave? "Oh, I left about 6 years ago." And what happened? Now the story is like this. He left his family behind. His wife and 2 girls, 2 daughters. And I said, "You just left them?" "Yes. I hate living with them. But now I feel sorry for them. I wanted to go back. And after working outside for so long, I suffered from an injury at my back. So he was carrying something at the back. That's why I got a humpback. I suffered from injury, and I've been mistreated, and I find life, I still remember home sweet home. The best place is at home. So I want to get back to my wife." I said, "Did you write to them?" "Yeah, a couple of times." "Did you write to them lately?" "Yeah, I told my wife that I'm going to arrive at 3 o'clock, and on certain date, arrival date. And I'm sure they will go to the train station to pick me up. So I was sitting there, and in my young mind, I was about 21, 22, and in my young mind I said, I feel sorry for this guy. He was coughing all the time. I don't know if it's contagious, otherwise it would be terrible. So he was coughing and coughing, and I really feel sorry for him. He got hurt, and so the train pulled into the station, and I was even more nervous than him. I was looking around for people in the station. There's none. There was no one on the station. And he was looking around, and I could see the feeling on his face, the expression on his face. He looked around, nobody's there. I look around, I feel so disappointed, I feel so sad for him. Nobody came to pick him up. You can imagine his wife must have hated him. His daughters, after 6 years, the daughter 6 years ago when he left is 12, teenagers already. Imagine a dad who left family with no financial support. You think the kids is going to like him? How about a wife? She could have another boyfriend already. I was looking around, I really, deep inside of me, I really feel sorry for him. Because he was expecting, when we were on our way talking, he had this expectation that his wife, his two, because in his mind, family members would still look the same as 6 years ago when he left. My two little daughters, my wife, and they will meet me in the station. But there was not a single sight of any human beings in the station except for the flag man, flagging goodbye for me, from him to me. And I never seen him again. Why did I bring this up? So, yeah, about life. Yeah, about life, yeah. So, so you gotta have meaning in life. You have enough. You have enough to live, enough means to live by, but have you got meaning to live for? If you're just day by day with no meaning, no objective, after 10 years you're still the same person, what is your meaning? Set up an objective, an agenda in you. 3 years later, I want to achieve this. Next year, I want to do this. Another year, I want to do this. You've got to have meaning. And that meaning will guide you. And that meaning will be your best friend. Because that meaning will bring you merits, will bring you prosperity. Because, okay, if you follow that meaning and really work hard towards it, for example, if you have I want to write a commentary of a book in Buddhist, the Buddhist teaching. Nobody, for example, translate a book. I want to translate a book, a difficult book, no English translation. But if people read that book, they will enlighten. So I want to set that as a meaning. Every day, I want to translate one paragraph. By the end of the 3rd year, I already have half done. And then with this, I can further enhance the meaning of it, and then it would be beneficial. So bringing you a lot of merits. Or within 3 years, I want to practice meditation so that I can get to samadhi. I want to get samadhi in three years. In other words, I want to be in deep tranquility in 3 years. You set up meaning in life. Meaning is not necessarily spiritual. I have a family. I have 2 daughters. I have my wife. I want to bring them up. I want my daughters to be educated. I want my life to lead a good, happy life. And we want to work together in harmony. That's my meaning. I want to build a family. I want to build a family that is responsible. I want to build a family that will produce good citizens. That's meaning. Meaning has to have support, you know. You can't just say, I have meaning, here is my agenda. Today is January the 1st, I write all my agendas in 16 pages and I stick it into the wall. By the end of the year, nothing has come true. Because you just write. You really have to follow the meaning hard. So you said, I'm happy and sad without work. If you did not have not had the work for so many years, since you said you lose the job, you must have enough means to live by. Otherwise you won't be here. But have you have meaning in your life? Or you lost it already? It's more serious if you lose your meaning than losing your job. Losing my job, I can get another one. Losing my meaning, I have nothing to live for. Why don't you go home and write up your meaning in life? One day we should have an assignment. Everybody submit a page on the meaning of life. Next, do you remember any of your past lives? Have you ever met someone who remembers this? So you're really interested in the mystics of things, about supernatural powers, about people who tell you past lives. There could be some medium, or there could be some monks or nuns or some mystic people who shaking the body and say, my last life was a monk in Thailand, and I was able to do this and do that. You like to listen to that kind of thing. You're curious about that kind of thing. But let me tell you, if that monk shaking his body and said, my last life I was a king of Thailand, and then and oh, wonderful, he already have violated his precepts. A monk cannot tell you his supernatural power. If a monk tells you his supernatural power, even if he has supernatural power, it's violated the precept. There's two connotation in this. The first is he was lying to you. He didn't have supernatural power, but he did tell you that he had. The other is he was up to a level that he really had supernatural power in these two situations. Under both situations, if he tell you he had supernatural power, he broke his precepts, even if it's true and real. But if he didn't have the supernatural power and lied to you, he committed two precepts. One is lying. The other is mentioning of supernatural powers. You see what I mean? So if you, some people say, I like to go to every temple and try to find out mystic people who can read features on my hand, who can write out my destiny on my birth date and all that. They like to find out mysteries about that. You don't need to look for those. Because by telling you supernatural powers, whether they're imagined, created out of the blue, they don't help you in your practice. It may help you in your quest for mysteries. Look at Googles for those. Lots of mysteries. You don't need someone to tell you all these mysteries. And do you remember any of your past lives? I don't have supernatural powers, but I can guess. Guessing is okay. I do it with qualifications. I'm guessing only, and you can guess the same thing. If this life I'm so poor, I must not have done any charity before. So how come I'm so poor? You were born into a rich family, and I'm born into a poor family. If my family had nothing, 6 people share a bathroom, and you have your own bathroom, and how come there's a difference? Because you build up causes to what you've got today. I build up causes to what I've got today. I'm responsible for what I've got today. You're responsible for it. I should really praise you. Oh, you must have done something right. I did something wrong. Maybe I should change. I must correct it. I must do better, try better. If you're healthy and I'm unhealthy, say if I have a lot of, I'm sick, that means I must have killed animals before in my previous lives. So you should always repent. That if you have suffered something, you always repent that I must have done some karmic energy that brought me this. I'm not going to do it again. But whatever I've done in the past is out of my greediness, out of my mouth, my body, my mind, I repent. I'm not going to do them again. And whatever things I'm going to do in the future, it will be all meritorious to all sentient beings. You have to repeat that every day in your daily chores, in your daily chanting. When I was in Thailand many years ago, 30 years ago, the tour guide guided us along to different places, and I came to a royal, an antique royal palace, a mini palace, and people were outside in the souvenir shops buying gifts. I was roaming around because I seemed to be at home. It seems I've been here before. So I started to venture into some rooms and look at some pictures, and they look so familiar, and I like them so much. I don't know why I have that feeling. So I started to guess only. I must have been a Thai before, or maybe I must have been a servant in a royal family, or even I must be a member of the royal family. How come when I see these things, I seem to be at home? Have you got that feeling before? Usually people have deja vu. Before they came into something, they have deja vu. But sometimes you have feelings that, I've been here before. And to some people, they went into a casino and said, I've been here before. Then you suffer. Oh yeah, this casino, all of those. I've been here before, I should come here all the time. Yeah. So you should watch places that you have been before. Second question on the same sheet, have you ever met any enlightened being? So you want me to introduce them to you? I have. I tell you, I have. I met them in books that they have written. They're enlightened beings who wrote books about the process of the enlightenment. Mind you, they cannot tell you supernatural power, but if they are on the verge of leaving this world, they're dying, they can do that. In other words, I have supernatural power. I didn't tell anybody. I'm helping many, many people using my supernatural power. And then one day, I'm leaving. Then I leave a gata or poem on the wall. I have been here for so many years. I'm actually Maitreya Bodhisattva. I come to this world just to finish my unfinished business. They can do it like that. And they're people like, there are poems like that. They can tell you when they're on the verge of leaving. They can tell you that. They can release it. They also release books out about the process of enlightenment. So I have not met them, and I have met them in books. Third, I'm very interested in your lectures. Can I ask if we can access them online, or is there any book that contains teaching of Buddha in English? Many, many of them. Get onto our website, www.buddhisttemple.ca. Buddhist Temple, one word, linked together, to buddhisttemple.ca. And then many of my lectures are in English, and in Chinese, and in Cantonese. I'm sure if you know how to access online material, YouTube has tremendous amount of Buddhist teaching material. Next question. Yes? Yeah. After they passed away? Well, after they passed away, there's no breaking of precepts. But if they, according to the precepts of the fourfold division, there's one precept in there specifically mentioned that if you talk about your own supernatural power, even though you have, you broke it. But not the most serious offense. It's a secondary one. But it's still not right. Yeah. Because you could confuse them. But if you don't say it, you just exercise it. You just review it. You don't say it. And some people with high intelligence can see it. Some people, average people, cannot see it. In other words, if I have a little higher intelligence, when I see this monk performing that, I know, oh, he's enlightened. But I'm not going to say it. He is enlightened. He is not yet enlightened. He is enlightened. He's partially enlightened. He's at a very high level. He's at a lower level. I know in my mind. I know, but I'm not going to say it. I don't have to find out whether he has supernatural power. But he has. You're not going to release it to the whole world. Oh, he has supernatural power. No, you are spreading something unfounded. Next question. Which Buddhist books would you recommend for beginners? So many of them. I'm sure that if you ask Lee would give you a whole list. So many of them for books for beginners. Which are the five skandhas? Conception, volition, the five skandhas. The five skandhas, matter, which is the material side. The five skandhas relating to the body first. The material side, which is of course exemplified by your body, your skin, your bone, your skull, your organs and all that. That's the material side of life. How about the spiritual side of life? Now, these are the five skandhas. Think about yourself. What am I made up of? Body and mind, right? Body. Body is matter. Mind is what? Four things in the mind. Your keyboards are the perception. And then it has to go into the memory, into the program. That's your conceptualization. Getting to the old files, taking out information, that is a conceptualization. Volitional actions. Volition what? Volition is the carrying out these actions. You get all this fire and all that, you work at something. Then that's volitional. You work it out, you fabricate things out now. With the keyboard, with all this memory and all that kind, you're working on it, you're creating new things. That's volition. And what is consciousness? All this conglomerated whole. The archives, the new files, the old files, the programming, the chips, the hardware, the software, everything of these things store into the consciousness. The question is, what consciousness is used when humans access intuition? We have to define what intuition means. I think intuition is something in your mind that you naturally respond to it. Actually, this word intuition is very difficult to define. But I think your questions, if I rephrased it, what consciousness, how do you think when you produce an intuition? Is that what you mean from David? Or can you clarify what you mean? Sure. Yeah, that's what you mean, right? That's what you mean. So when you think about something from within, intuition from within, this intuition, of course, lies not just at the surface level. When it's called intuition, it must be at a little deeper level. Maybe at a subliminal level, a lower level. How do you access it? What consciousness is used? This is a very general question. Well, to talk about this, it encompasses a whole course of Buddhist phenomenology. In other words, the school of the consciousness only, or the Vijnana Vadin school. Or in the Japanese call it Hosso, H-O-S-S-O, Hosso school. The Chinese sometimes call it Fa Xiang Zhong, Dharma characteristic school. It means all characteristic school. So, what is consciousness? Do we have only one consciousness? we have 8 consciousnesses that we're talking about. Every time when we talk about these 8 consciousnesses, we always start with the salesman first, at the front door, the sense, the ear consciousness, the nose, the eye, the ear. We start at the front end, and then we'll work towards the subliminal level. But now this time I want it to be a little different. I want to start from the subliminal level first. Our consciousness at a very subliminal level, a very deep level, is the alaya consciousness. Associated with it is the manas consciousness. The alaya consciousness is the store consciousness, which store all your past from beginninglessness, we don't know when. Billions of lives ago, many, many reincarnations ago, it accumulates all the archives, it accumulates all the impressions, dispositions, activities, every thought, every action, every deed, wholesome, unwholesome, neutral, mental defilements, they all store in the alaya consciousness. It's like an ocean, it's immeasurable ocean. How many megabytes? I don't know. Uncountable. It's always in there. That ocean can store everything in it. And this ocean by itself, it has the nature of being neutral. Means it absorbs wholesome, unwholesome, everything in it without judging it. No. And some people say no, because it receives wholesome, that means it has a wholesome characteristic in it. No, it has a neutral characteristic. It accepts everything, it stores everything. And whatever it stores becomes seeds. Now seeds is have a metaphorical sense. Seeds, that means energy, the potential energy hidden in it. Now these seeds hidden in alaya consciousness. So whenever I see something, I hear something, I touch something, this alaya consciousness interacts simultaneously with all the other consciousnesses. Not temporally in a sequence, no. It interacts at the same time simultaneously. It's a very important concept. In other words, when you see something, it does not mean that, seeing and then transmitting and then getting to the interlevel and the lower level. They correspond, interact in tandem with it simultaneously. So that means all these past experiences, when you see something through your doors, through the sense of consciousness, simultaneously interact and simultaneously transform the image into your consciousness. Now that is the first subjective transformation. Why do we call it subjective? Because you sensed it. Because you see it with your own past experiences. With whatever happened in your past. If you see it with your past karma, with your past experiences, that means you see it with color lenses already. It's subjective. It's called subjective is because not everybody is the same. You see this bowl, and I see this bowl, this is the bowl, but because of your subjective alaya consciousness and my subjective alaya consciousness, it is a bowl, the common karmic attribution is a bowl, but you perceive it and I perceive it a little differently. At the crude level, it's the same, it's a bowl. But at the very subtle level, which is the most important, it's not just a bowl. Why you and I see it as a bowl and not a piece of gold nugget? Why? Because our karma has a common karma and a specific karma. In other words, what is common karma? I'm getting into very details, but anyway, I don't mind. I don't feel comfortable if I don't get into detail. Because I'm just touching the surface. I'm just playing around. What is common karma and specific karma? We come to this world, we must have some common characteristics in our alaya consciousness that make us come back together in here. Otherwise, I'll be in heaven and you'll be maybe in here. I'm in heaven because my karma is not yours. You and I, we must have some common karma that we enjoy the same hospital, Richmond Hospital, enjoy the same safe way, We enjoy the same medical help. We enjoy the same roads, the same parking lot, or maybe all this is common. But then, within the common, there is specific karma. You are living in Shaughnessy, and I'm living in an old house. I'm not even living in the whole house. I rented an apartment, a single bachelor apartment, and it's terrible. I only got one room, and you have a whole mansion. Your house is worth $6 million, and my apartment every month I have to pay $600 rent. I have to live from mouth to work. I can't even support all the means. Why? I am enjoying the same hospital as you do. I'm walking the same road. It's just that I'm seeing this as a bowl, the same bowl. But somehow your karma and my karma is different. You subjectively transform this and you don't know about it. And let me give you another example. A pool of water. When ghost ram sentient beings see the pool of water, it's not crystal clear water. It's blood. So when they want to drink something, you may see it as water you're giving them to drink. They see it as pus and blood. When they drink it, they can't drink it. When the heavenly sentient beings see a pond of clear water, it's crystal. They can walk on it. When the fish see water, it's their habitat. It's their palace. It's their apartment, their house. So in other words, in each ram, it's the same pond of water, but because their karma are different, they interact, they see it, they even get close to it with a different specific purpose. So actually, whatever you see, you think that's really what it is? It appears as what it is? No. You already transform it into what you believe what it is. So there's your first subjective transformation. That's your alive consciousness. Whatever you see, because your karma and my karma were all different, you see it with your own lenses. And I see it with my lenses. Our lenses, are our lenses the same? No. The crude level is the same. The specific level is not the same. When I see a beautiful willow tree, I admire the beauty of the willow. I like nature. I like even the sound it produces. When there's another guy who sees this willow tree, gee, I'm going to chop it down. It's terrible. I don't like willow trees. They're going to chop it down. It's not the same. And when I see as a monk, when I see maybe a beautiful lady, very sensuous lady walking by, and I may not have any thought in it. Whereas another sensuous fellow say, "Oh my goodness," you know what I mean? They have different idea of what it's all about. It's the same object. It's the same object with different karma. You see, the first subjective transformation is the alive consciousness. Simultaneously at the same time. You don't know about it because it's at the surface level, that's the bowl. At the subliminal level, you don't even know it. If you start to be conscious of your alive consciousness, you're on your way to enlightenment. Because you're conscious of what you're doing. You're conscious this is what you should not do, this is what you should do. That's the first subjective transformation. The second subjective transformation is what? Is your manas, M-A-N-A-S. That's the seventh consciousness. That's the ego consciousness. The part of your mind, there's a region in which you always identify yourself as I. It's the self-centered I. And this I views the alive consciousness as an object and mistakenly perceive it as permanent, attaches to the alive consciousness. This is the manas consciousness, the I, the ego consciousness. Simultaneously, at the same time, it is created when all the other consciousness interact with the outside world. There's a second subjective transformation. In other words, other than the first subjective transformation of differentiating, I also identify my self-centered with this. I'm going to get this. This is mine. This is yours. You're not going to get my personal interest. This is my bank account. This is yours. This is my brother. This is your brother. You're not going to hit my brother. If you hit my brother, I'll revenge. You have a lot of this ego in you, which is the second subjective transformation. What is the third subjective transformation? All subjective. Nothing is objective. Why? Why is everything subjective? Because you see it with your own karma, and no karma is objectively the same. What is the third subjective transformation? That is your mano consciousness, your thinking consciousness. And that contains a lot of afflictions at the end. The primary afflictions of craving, ill will, ignorance, self-conceit, doubt, view of a composite self, extreme view, perverse view, attachment to one's views, anger, hatred, jealousy. You name them. 51 of them. This mano consciousness interact with, we call it the mind king, the consciousness king, interact with 51 ministers. Interact with the minister of envy, the minister of ignorance, the minister of doubt, the minister of anger, the minister of hatred, the minister of jealousy, the minister of conceit. They interact with these ministers and carry out all these activities. So when you ask me what consciousness is used, you just simultaneously interact with it, interact to it. And you're not aware of it. You're not even aware of this subjective transformation. You have your personal view on it. You're not aware of it. And especially the ego consciousness. Because the alaya consciousness is neutral, it accepts everything. What differentiates it is the ego consciousness. And that ego consciousness have emphasis on self-deceit, self-love, self-craving, and self-arrogance, all contained in it. Now, that explains consciousness already, in just a few words. How to make us realize our mano consciousness, just to know about it, just to understand it. How do the Buddha's teaching make us be aware of all these mental afflictions? How to curb it? The Buddha introduced the 6 paramitas, remember? One of the 6 paramitas, the first one is giving. Giving is the forerunner of it because it's easier to practice. If you practice giving all the time, you are in the process of eliminating your ego because what you own, you give out. That's why we have people who donate for lunch. Well, when I sit down for lunch, you give it to me free, I just accept it. But when you come to think of it, oh, this lunch, somebody prepared it. If I go to a restaurant, I got to pay for it, and I'm not comfortable when I accept some people's paying for me. I really want to donate, I want to give it back. Then you consider the first moment that you consider giving is the moment when you start to realize your own ego. I want to give. I don't want just to receive. Because you want to possess it. The possessiveness is the ego. You want to give it out as much as you can. And the sutra says that why do we have a world in which there is the poor and the very rich? The very rich, in the alaya consciousness, they have already accumulated all this karma that make them be rich. In their previous life, for many, many lives, they already have, they're very generous. They give out a lot. I remember just about 2 years ago, I met a monk in Hong Kong, a senior monk, and we have a conversation. Just about a year and a half ago, we had a conversation. He's a very senior monk, about 85, and he's been a monk for 65 years. I don't know if he has supernatural power. He won't tell me anyway. And nobody should tell anybody supernatural power. And I said, I started this temple 30 years ago. Now it's 32 years. And I started this temple with a piece of dirt. At that time, I was not a monk, I was just a layman. And somehow, in this 30 years, it seems that I have no problems in getting donations. The donations just find its way to come to me. And you think it's easy? Would people just give you money to build a temple? I said, I don't understand. Because there's so many other people who try to build a temple and they never get successful in doing it. Who would give you millions of dollars to build, to buy land, to give you all? I don't know why people are so willing, directly or indirectly, they donate and they donate in kinds and all that. And I have someone who I talked to them for about half an hour, and they donate hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the monk said, there's a reason for it, my friend. He called me my friend. Think about what you did in this lifetime, me. And think about what you could have done in your previous life. I said, I don't know anything about previous lives, but think about what you did in your early childhood. Did you give anything out? Giving anything out? No, I came from a poor family. What did I have to give out? And then, maybe something happened to me when I was about 13 years old. Because when I had to go to school in the morning, I always have to take the ferry to Central District, from Kowloon to Central District. I have to take a ferry. And my mom gave me $3.50. That includes my lunch, my transportation, and everything in there. A meager allowance. And so I have $3.50 in my pocket. And one morning I was on the ferry, I hurried through my homework that I haven't finished last night, listening to radio. I was very busy finishing my homework. And then I saw this monk going from one aisle to another, taking out a bowl to beg for money. Nobody give anything. There's 200 people on the ship. It's open space. You can actually see the ocean. The ocean, all the wind, very windy, and he's getting a bowl, from aisle to aisle, and trying to collect some on arms round, some money. And in my little mind, I was thinking, this monk, did he come from mainland China? Where is he going? Nobody gives him any money. And does he have enough transportation fee to go to his destination? I was worrying for him. I was only 13 years old. I was worrying for him. Nobody wanted to give him any money. So even though nobody gave him any money, he put up a smiling face, and I still remember he got 2 teeth locked off from here, no teeth in here. When he was smiling, there's a hole in here. I still remember it. So it was, doing this, and there's got a hole in here, and going from aisle to aisle, from person to nobody even pay attention to him. I was thinking, gee, it's quite sad that nobody gives me any donation. And what I did is, without questioning what I should do, I took out the $3.50 when he came to me and put it all in his bowl. $3.50. That's my lunch. That's my return fare. Everything is in there. I didn't even think, what am I going to do without any money? So when I come to think, maybe that's the donation, my first donation. That's it, my friend, because you gave out unconditionally, not even considering yourself. You give everything out. You're so compassionate. You are slowly getting the return. And I'll tell you, in the future, you will continue to have that. Plus, I suspect that in your previous life, you must have given out a lot. This is what he told me. I don't know if he has that supernatural power to have seen my previous life, but it seems that yes, I never value money for myself. I always treasure old stuff. In other words, a pair of pants, I become so attached to it that I don't want to throw it away, because I like it so much. It's all worn out, but I still like it. Even my underwear, it's all broken, but I like it so much. It's so you build up a certain history to it. You have a historical record of it. You don't want to get rid of it. So I don't even buy anything. I don't buy anything. I don't go out to buy anything. I never go shopping. People have a lot of shopping. I never go out shopping. So giving is the first to get rid of your ego. And the more you give out, the more it bounces back to you. Maybe that's why it's bouncing back to me. But when it bounces back to me, I give it out again. It's all in the temple. And when people come to the temple, and he always said, 1 year ago when I came here, it's not the same. It seems that for all these years that I come here, every year is different. You're always in the process of developing it. Yes, I started from a piece of land about half an acre. Now it's 12 acres. I started with a structure and a foundation sum of approximately $300,000, and now it's worth I don't know. I don't even give a dollar value to it, because I know the other temple on number 5, just a building, 20 million, just a building, 20 million, and how many buildings we've got in here. But I'm poor. I don't have this money. Don't belong to me. It's all belong to the temple. So every cost, there's an effect to it. So you have to learn to give out. Give out as much as you can. If you want to see return, it always comes back to you. But you don't give out conditionally. That's what the Diamond Sutra says. If you give it out to you unconditionally, it will come back in thousands of fold. But if you give out conditionally, it will still come back, but the merit is not as much. I have a friend who, 20 years ago, he started a program of helping needy school children to have education in China. And he has been doing that for many years, 20 years. And I have also friends who don't care about donating to educate poor kids, give them the education, give them the lunches and all that. But this guy has been doing it for 20 years. I think he spent a total of maybe $1 million. He's not that rich, but he always helped out the poor children. And I know that all his children, they're all highly educated. No problem with the children's schooling, no problem with education. They're always top-notch students. Whereas for some people who are rich people, they don't care about that kind of donations. Their kids, they can't finish universities. They become, they're not educated. Even they are educated, but their kids are not educated. Somehow, you educate the other kids, your kids get the same return, the same attention. There's always cause and effect. We call it causality. So make every thought, every action, every word, there is an effect to it. Be careful with it. Don't misuse it. So the first to learn is to give out. Now I'm glad that we all, we all learn to do that. It's very important to give out. Say, for example, our lunches are free. We never ask for donations, but we should always consider how come people are so generous in giving out and some people are not. You see the difference. The difference will be in what you encounter in the future. It all comes back to you. Okay, next question. What are some, I can't see, what are some different ways of dissolving the negative seeds in the liar consciousness? In order to deal with, you cannot dissolve it, you can only dilute it. Because it's already been polluted. You can dilute it. You learn the Buddhist teaching. You have to study what happened to your mind. What is the structure of mind, how your mind thinks, how do you cognize things, and how do you change your cognition? How do you transform your 3 subjective transformations into purity? Then you have to do it stage by stage. So how do you dissolve negative seeds? The right actions, the right livelihood, the right view. You have to learn all that. I can't tell you in just one sitting in here. You have to learn all that to make it come true. If you want to further study Buddhism, you don't view Buddhism as a superstitious religion. It's about the mind. You have to study your cognitions. How do you cognize an object? How is mental afflictions being created? You have to study, you have to map out your mind to trace it and know how you think, and then you start at the source of your thinking. By starting at the origin, then you can curb all the poisons. You don't try to cut the branches only. If you got to heal, to cure the roots at the root level, not at the branches level. So you really have to understand the religion. And the religion contains so much thinking in it that it's like an ocean. And people classify it into 8 schools. And one of the schools is consciousness school, which studies the mind in detail. And some people, and it is also called the Yogacara school. Now, if you want to understand the religion, the Buddhist teaching scientifically, you cannot but spend a lot of time in the Yogacara, because that's how analytically it analyzes the mind. And if you want to sit and debate for the Buddhist teaching, to support the Buddhist teaching, you really have to understand the Yogacara school. But the Yogacara school is very difficult to understand, because if you read the Chinese language, it's written in ancient Chinese, and it's very abbreviated. But more and more, there are English translations of it that you can study. One of the books that you can study is the Buddhist phenomenology, or any books regarding Yogacara school. That if you understand that, the 8 minds, the study of the 8 minds, and in detail, people, if you study the Chinese version, one has to spend at least 10, 15 years to master the teaching. But for some people, they master it in 2-3 years. They have learned it in their previous life. They master it in 2-3 years. It's just like learning piano. Some people in this life, they don't learn. They just remember. You don't start to learn in this life. It just starts to come back to you. You remember it. It's just like Johnny playing piano at 5 years old, playing Mozart. Why? He didn't learn it this life. He's just slowly being revived. His memories being revived, and as he plays on, all his talents hidden in alaya consciousness, all the seeds come back. All the seeds get blossom, and all of a sudden you remember all these musical pieces. That happened in quite a few families like that, right? You nod a few times. That means you heard about that too, right?
George Gershwin, for example.
George what?
George Gershwin, he was a famous American composer.
Yeah.
And they bought a piano for his older brother,
Yeah.
who was the lyricist of the writing pair. As they're moving the piano into the house, George is already on the piano playing. Never had a lesson.
See? Yeah. And he wrote out his lyrics for him.
Yeah.
There are many cases like that.
Mozart, 4 years old, he could play anything.
Yeah, Mozart at 4 years old.
Everything he wrote just one time. It just came out of his head, perfect on the paper. He never rewrote anything.
Yeah.
Just wrote it once.
So if that is not from previous life, what is it from? If it's not from the archives, so you believe in the archives? You just got to dig it out from your files. You go to the archive files and pull it out and dig it out and say, here's Mozart. Yeah.
Maybe that is what we could call intuition.
Yeah.
To give a name to it.
Well, some people call it intuition. Some people call it the subconsciousness, the subliminal thinking. But the Buddhist teaching analyze it in detail. more detailed than any other Western philosophy. Because I study Western philosophies, but it's in very much detail. Sometimes it scares people away because you get into that much detail. I can't remember all the terms, but it gets into details. And previous life learning, reviving it in this life, a lot of cases like that. So it must be from the archives, particularly for children, because they haven't got any confusion and conflicts yet in life. As you move on to maturity, you have a lot of pollutants that, in other words, you don't get to the archive file so early. You get to archive file late. All these keys get rusty. You can't open the files anymore. So you have to lubricate all these again. And for the youngsters, they don't need to because they're still fresh in their mind. So when you want to learn the Buddhist teaching, you should learn it at young age, not when you are too old. At young age, you discover more. There are many musicians, belong to that category, and also scientists too. Scientists and artists. A lot of artists are like that. Yes?
In the Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, it says at the end, this is the great, bright, unsurpassed mantra.
Yeah.
It's greater than all.
Yeah.
Could you explain that, how that mantra is deemed to be greater than all other mantras?
I think in most Dharani it says, oh, it's the greatest, it's better than all. It's just an emphasis on it. I think they're all equal. Greater than all, that means to draw your attention that don't ignore this. Greater than all in the perspective that if you dig deeper and deeper into it, is the greatest. In almost all Dharani, it says that it's the greater than all if you dig deep into it. Gate, prakate, prasamgate, buddhiswaha. That means if you dig deeper and deeper into the crust of the earth, you get the oil. And oils are the same. You get different locations, different mantras, different locations. And every mantra, every location says, dig deep. Go more, more, more. If you go more, you get the greatest. This sutra says, go more, you get the greatest. But the petroleum is the same. It depends on how deep you dig into it. You dig into it. So it always reminds you that go, gate, go, paragate, go beyond. Prasamgate, beyond, go more. Buddhiswaha. When you do that, you get the oil. When I chant the Buddha medicine, Namo Bhagavate by Saji Guru Raya, I find that if I chant it 21 times, it doesn't come to me to be in tranquility. When I chant 108 times and up to about 90, then I start to be like myself in the middle of the chanting, with no distraction. It takes. Why do we chant so many times? Every time you chant just 3 times on a bus, you can never get into the trance. You can never get into the inner crust of it. So you have to get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Then all of a sudden there's an illumination. You can't get it just for 3 times. Some people said every day I chanted 7 times. You don't get it for 7 times. 108 times is a very good way of digging deeper and deeper. And I know Korean youngsters who chant thousands of times per day. And I think he bow 1,000 times per day. Is it 1,000 times?
1,000 times a day, 49 days in a row.
49 days, every day he bow 1,000 times for 49 days. And he had to go to school, right? He got up 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, what a kid. What a kid. It's 15 years old, right? 15 years old. He's in a Korean temple in Surrey. And every day, 1,000 prostrations for 49 days. Yeah. See, everyone is different. But when you really practice that, the Zen master Xu Yun, empty cloud. Have you heard empty cloud? The Zen master, he make a pilgrimage to a mountain and make a vow for his mom. All the merits attributed to my mom. That is what he said in front of the Buddha. The pilgrimage is every three steps, one prostration. He traveled from one province to another, and that took 3 years. Even in the winter time, he carry on. He carry on in a slope. In a slope, because if you go further, that means you're losing one prostration. Every 2 steps, he go back again for one prostration in order not to cheat. You know what? You understand what I mean? It is in the slope. So he make 1 prostration for 3 steps, and he walked for 3 years. He walked for 3 years, and in at least 2 instances, he passed out. One in a mountain, in a snow mountain. And he got saved by a beggar. And this beggar, and he asked for the name of the beggar, and just call me Man. And the beggar said, I don't have a name, just call me Man. And that's Manjushri. And he passed out 2 times. He was saved by the same beggar. It was all in the autobiography. And when he got to the mountain destination, he asked, have you ever seen a beggar by the name Man? No, we never have that beggar around in here. And one of the monks said, oh, that's Manjushri, Bodhisattva, who saved you while you were in difficulties. He was saved at least 2 times in the autobiography. One, he passed out in the snow. Another time, he had no food. And he passed out again, and he was brought into a hut by this beggar. So there are stories like that. So we have one question: how to get out of the animal and hungry ghost realm. If you want to be not in the animal realm or the hungry ghost realm, you must not start to cultivate causes that would put you there. Because when there's a cause, there's an effect. If you have cultivated all these causes leading to that vicious realm, then you will get there. So it's very important that you know causation. In the Buddhist teaching, it is very essential that you have to understand the philosophy of causation. When there is a cause, that cause will lead to an effect. So as I always said, if you want to pass the examination with flying colors, assuming that's the effect you want, you got to build up causes leading to that effect. You have to study hard. You have to attend lectures. You have to take lecture notes. You have to buy the right book to read. I know of some of my fellow students who, after half the semester, they still haven't bought that book. So yeah, it happened. Because I always confronted the question is, what book are we using? Oh, we already gone through half, and you don't know what book we are using. If you don't want to be in the vicious realms, do not get into causes that will lead you there. One of the causes that will lead you to the animal and hungry ghost realm, the 2 vicious realms. Actually, there are 3. If you always do killing, sexual misconduct, stealing, that's the bodily actions. And so your body is impure because you're carrying out these 3 behavior: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And how about your mouth? Flattery, cursing, lying, and double tongue language. You know what double tongue language is? The fact is one fact, but to Mr. A, you said this is this. To Mr. B, you said it differently. You have double tongue. And to Mr. A, you said, Mr. B said that you're a nut. And then to Mr. B, you said, Mr. A said that you shouldn't be working in here because he hates you. I mean, you have double tongue. The mouth can perform 4 vicious deeds. Lying, cursing, you know, people curse all the time, flatter all the time, flattery. To say something that is not true, flattery. You met someone you dislike, and he looks terrible, and you said, you look beautiful today. Actually, it's terrible. But you said, you look beautiful today. You just want to please him. You're not telling the truth. And thought, how about a thought? A thought is full of greediness, ill will, and ignorance. And some people may argue, I've never done any bodily misdeeds like that. I never kill, I never steal, I never commit sexual misconduct. You never kill? You're still eating meat. You are indirectly supporting slaughtering of animals for food. And millions of animals were slaughtered every day to be on the table for food. And you supported that. When I was a kid, I used to be playing in a soccer field in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, we have a place called a Kowloon district in Hong Kong. And it's quite close to a slaughterhouse. So I was at that time about 12 or 13. We like to play soccer ball after school. And because it's so close to a slaughterhouse, we also have teenagers and workers from the slaughterhouse, from those people who slaughter animals for profession. They come to play soccer ball too. So I mix with them and I know a few things from them. And I still remember he said, well, we're killing pigs every day, and how many you kill? 30, 40? So how many kills today? 60? So they kill 50, 60 pigs per day. And did you say the words to them? Yes, I did. You know what did they say to them? What did they say to them? To the pigs before they kill them? Let me translate that Chinese poem. Mr. Pig, pig, you must understand. That's the first sentence. Before killing, you know how they kill? They drive them through an electrocuted threshold door, and they got shocked. And sometimes they use gun, and sometimes they don't even want to use electric guns. They just kill, but they stab a knife into the pig's throat and slice it all the way. They're very skillful. What do they do before they slaughter a pig? They utter a few words to the pig, because they were also afraid, because they don't want the pigs to in the next reincarnations to get them. So it's the pigs, you must understand. If they don't eat, I won't have to kill you. Yeah. If they don't eat, I don't have to kill you. Because they eat, I have to kill you. So if you want to get to revenge, don't get us, get them. They utter something like that for every slaughtered. I still, because it's a translation. Now I have to think how this translates. Yeah, if you want to revenge, get those who eat you, not me, because I'm just doing a profession. For every animal that you eat that they slaughtered, there's a cost in there. You can't get away. So you also carried the karma. After all, you're only eating the corpse of slaughtered bodies. What are you eating? A pig's been slaughtered, and you just eat the leftover, the body left over. If you don't put seasoning and soy sauce in it, you won't eat it. You won't cook. If they don't cook it, just raw and cook it, dip it in hot water and take it out, you won't eat it. So, if you want to get out of the animal and hungry goes around, don't cultivate causes that will lead you over there. You must not kill, you must not commit sexual misconduct. For people who commit sexual misconduct, according to some sutras, they reincarnate into yin yang. What's next? What's a good translation for yin yang? Oh, Canada geese. Canada geese, because they don't have to choose their partners. They can do that kind of thing anytime they want. So they reincarnate into animals. So sexual misconduct have a lot of retributions involved with it. If you have done that, don't panic, repent. If you don't know that it's wrong, you're deepening the roots. If you know that is wrong and you want to correct it, change it, do the repentance every day. It would purify the seeds. Remember, there are seeds in your alaya consciousness. Seeds produce manifest activities. Manifest activities perfume the seeds. The three processes of seeds, manifest activities, and perfuming simultaneously affect each other with causes and effects occurring simultaneously. Seek your repentance every day. It will purify the seeds. Whatever wrongs you have done, don't panic about it. Repent on it. You make a vow that you won't do it again. If you don't make a vow that you won't do it again, the seeds are not purifying. It's just like the seeds are there, but if you're telling yourself, I'm not going to do it again, then the seeds would not produce the manifest activities. And the manifest activities would not go back to perfume the seeds. Remember, for every manifest activity, it don't just happen and it go away. It goes back to perfume your own alaya consciousness. This world is a world of desire. We call it Kama Dhatu. We have the Kama Dhatu, Rupa Dhatu, and Arupa Dhatu. Remember? Kama Dhatu is world dominated by desires. Eating desires, sexual desires, desires for pleasurable things. This is the desire realm. And then the next higher realm is Rupa realm without desires. They don't have desires. It's good not to have desires, you know. They don't have desires. The mental afflictions with them are very few. They're very happy. They are millionfold happier than us. You are happy when you do not have mental afflictions. You're not happy not because you have won the lotto ticket. Oh, I won the lotto ticket of $5 million, I'm happy. That's not happiness. The happiness comes when you are totally free of mental afflictions. I still remember that poem. I only got one question, so I can linger on for a poem. I have a poem, a Chinese poem, I utter in Cantonese. 春有百花，秋有月. Spring has various flowers, and autumn has the bright moon. 夏有涼風，冬有雪. Summer has soothing breeze, and winter has white snow. So the four seasons. 若無閒事掛心頭. If you do not even have a single trace of mental affliction, 便是人間好時節. That's the best season. Not the snow, not the gentle breeze, not anything else. If you do not have one single trace of mental affliction, no jealousy, no hatred, no greediness, no fraudulence, no negligence, no depressions, no hatred, no ill will, nothing like that, and you are one purity, that's the best season. When we were born in this world, we have dominating desires that we brought with us into this world. So in our seats, we already have those desires. mostly bad desires. If you carry out bad deeds with emphasis on hatred, jealousy, greediness, you name it, those deeds produce volitional activities, produce manifest activities, produce. They don't just produce and that is it. They go back to perfume your seeds, to reinforce your seeds, so that you get deeper and deeper into it. That goes into very deep psychology. I still remember a murder case in Hong Kong many years ago, where a group of teenagers, male, 3 or 4, they illegally imprisoned a teenage girl because they're in bad companies, of course, and they on drugs and things like that. And somehow the boys, the teenage boys, thought that the teenage girls betrayed them somehow, and they start to beat her up, and as a punishment, and imprison her for a few days. The first day they had a lot of yelling and shouting, and the second day a little bit of beating, the third day more beating, the fourth day more beating. It's been influencing, overwhelmed them with the notion of beating and revenge that they finally killed the girl. And later they interviewed the teenage boy and said, we didn't have any intention to kill, but we don't know why. As time goes on, it builds up that all of a sudden they killed the girl. They were life imprisoned now in Hong Kong, as far as I remember. So it goes back to perfume it, and you don't know what you're doing. Don't let that perfuming happen to you. So watch your behavior, watch your thought, watch your speech. That's Buddhism. Not just about, oh, Buddha bless me, I want to have riches, I want to have health. No. Understand yourself. The Buddhist teaching is to understand yourself and resolve the problems within you. You got some additions to make?
Well, just in terms of those boys that you talked about.
Yeah.
We saw a manifestation of that here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
We refer to it now as the Stanley Cup riot that took place.
Oh, yes.
Where a lot of teenage children were standing out there on the street, and before they knew it, they were caught up in it all. Ask them why they did it, they don't know.
Yeah.
But they did it.
Yeah.
They're sorry and they apologized, but they did it.
Most of them may be good kids.
Yeah.
Very normal kids. It is somehow that an agitation have come up to them, they're overwhelmed by it, and in their egoistic feeling inside the alaya consciousness, that ill will, revolt comes out to them, and they were overwhelmed by it. And that's the reason why some criminals, when they get caught, and they were interviewed by their own attorney for their protection. The attorney honestly asked them, why do you do that? He said, I don't know. I can't control myself. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have intention to kill that man or that lady. Please help me. I don't intend to kill, but the killings were already been committed at that time. And I still remember many years ago, there was a man who killed the whole family members. And he was so remorseful that he wished the execution to be performed as soon as possible so that he feel more comfortable with it. Now, how can anybody have that conscience of killing his own family members? He must have been influenced, and some people call it possession by demon or something like that.
What about the Shafia? The Shafia murders that happened in Ontario just recently, which were...
Sophia murder?
Shafia was the household name.
Oh.
And it was the Afghani family where the father, in an honor killing, killed 3 of his daughters and his wife.
Oh.
That just happened recently. It's been in the news an awful lot.
Yeah.
It's done an awful lot of people asking a lot of questions for people who immigrate, bringing some of those beliefs from other countries.
Yeah, so this is a world of desires that we already have brought our bad habits into this life. And when the opportunity comes, it all reveal themselves and get you into trouble. And now the Buddha introduced the Buddhist teachings to us and say, stop that. Purify yourself. Stop doing that. So it's been very fortunate for all of us here to be able to pick up the Buddhist teaching. Because if you don't, you probably would do something differently. Yeah.
There are a couple of men in the United States refer to themselves as Dharma brothers. They are the Dharma brothers, and they go to federal prisons and spend time. They hold retreats with lifers.
Yeah.
These men will never get out with
Yeah.
And a common comment from these men after 40 days in retreat is, I used to think that it was everybody else's fault that I am here.
Yeah.
And through this experience, I've come to understand I put myself here.
Yeah.
That was an awakening.
Yeah. It's just like, don't blame your environment. Don't blame the objects. It's you who perceive the object. It's the subjective transformation of that object through your alaya consciousness, through your manos and manas consciousness, and that's the way you perceive it. That's where you do it subjectively. Subjectively that means do it within you. So you created it. You create your hell. You create your paradise, and you have a choice. You don't want to create hell. So this is a world of suffering, and we must understand suffering. I still remember, I don't know how many years back, there was a lady, I was talking about suffering, and he said, no, I don't believe in suffering. We said, the victims in the animal realms, the dogs, cows and horses and rats, don't they suffering? No. In my next life, I want to be a butterfly. I can fly around, and he wants to be a butterfly. And then what happened if a naughty boy picked your wings, put it on your table, and tied it with a thread, and then let you fly, and get you under control so that you can see the beautiful butterfly under control, and they pull you, and they pull your legs off, and you're dead on the ground, and then the little boy uses his foot to crash on your body. Is it good to be a butterfly? He wants to be a butterfly. It's still better than a pig, I guess. Yeah, you end up on somebody else's dinner table. So there are people who are ignorant. There are people who don't understand life is suffering. Well, understanding life is suffering is not negative. People may say, the Buddhists are very negative. You always talk about suffering. Suffering is not, it's a fact in life. When you're always confronted with death, with sickness, with old age, with a lot of these things, catastrophes and tsunamis, how can you say these are not sufferings? But by understanding these sufferings, we surpass these sufferings. We learn to lift these sufferings and surpass sufferings to an enlightened level. By understanding sufferings, you want to get away from it. If you don't understand suffering, you don't even know you're in suffering. By understanding the hardship of prison, you want to get away from it. Understand the freedom when you're outside, you want to get away. If you're born in prison, you don't even know there's freedom outside. So you must be educated that there's freedom outside. A frog living under the well will never see the sky. They only see the sky in a circle. Oh, that's the sky. But the sky is without limit. Yes? Well, yeah.
So if these people that are murderers or sexual when they pass, when they die, do they automatically go into the hell realm?
People who commit all this, the three vicious, all these deeds, not necessarily. We can cause and effect. Causality is like a whole labyrinth of causes and effect. You cannot easily identify one for the other. It's like a network of things. It also depends on the maturity of some causes and the immaturity of others. Say if I committed killings and sexual misconduct and quite a bit of misdeeds, quite a bit of non-meritorious deeds in this life, and at the junction of death, because I have a cause that I would encounter some of these people who are from a Buddhist organization, Buddhist organization, and they send a whole team of hospice care people coming up, and then one of this guy, Lee, for example, one of this guy is giving me a Dharma talk, and then I say, oh yeah, those are the things that I have done wrong. I'm not going to do them again. And because he feels that he's sorry about it, he won't do it again. And this group is chanting Nam Amitabha for me. And they said that if you can be reborn in there, if you have that one purity of mind, if you have that concentration, you can be reborn in there. So I don't want to think about only bad things. I don't want to think about all the sexual misconduct, the stealing, the lying, all these things I have done. I don't want to think about that. I want to think about this land I would go to. And I also want to think about some of the good deeds I have done. So I think about that. And then maybe at that juncture, you pass your last breath. And then maybe reborn in the Pure Land. But how about the karma that you haven't repaid? Then you come back to repay it. In other words, you still go to there first, to that Pure Land first, when you learn to become the Buddha, and then somehow in time, then you come back to repay whatever you should have paid. So the causes depends on what is opportune for that at that juncture moment. So it's absolutely meritorious to organize a hospital care team to chant, to give Dharma talk for the person who is at a juncture of death, because you could change his future. So so you did a good deed for helping the doctor that passed away. You know, he gave you a nice present, his last piece of briefcase, right? So he really appreciates what you have done for him. Yeah, and people usually don't want to go to hospital care because they don't want to see sorrowful scenes like people passing away. They want to go to a pub. They want to go to movies. Who would go to hospitals to visit the dying patients to comfort them? But there are people who do it. Lee is doing it, and Daphne is doing it too in India. You know, clutching the hands of people who passed away, and not just one, a few, right? In a whole group. And her function going there to India, Calcutta, right? Calcutta, is to comfort dying patients, and she's been there for 3 months. I don't know how many. Yes.
When do you know that a person is dying? I have a daughter who has leukemic disease, and she was given 3 months, and now it's 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
When does
Oh yeah, sometimes you don't know. I still remember once I was on a mission, somebody told me that there was a dying patient right at Burnaby. So we went over there, and the group said, it's dying right away. He's my teacher. He helped me to, he built 1 or 2 cares for the teenagers who are on drugs, and I was one of those teenagers, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you. I don't want to see him dying, so please come to save him. Come to say come to chant so that he will be born in the Pure Land. So out of compassion, not knowing whether it's a time for him to pass away yet, so we went to his house. And this man was lying in there, and we're chanting Nam Amitabha, Nam Amitabha. And we've been chanting for 3 hours, and the man's still, still holding on his breath. Now, we don't have a naughty guy to say, oh, why don't you go, so we don't have to leave early. No, we don't have a guy saying that, but you're in trouble. So it was breathing his last, and then he was trying to sit up and say, I want to pass away in a sitting posture. So he sit up for another half hour, and definitely, if someone is dying, he won't have the energy to get up and cross his leg in a meditative position. So I wanted to pass away in a meditative position. So he was sitting like that for half an hour, and we're chanting and chanting and hoping that he can pass away in that position, and we fail. And so he changed his position, he lie down again. So we say, okay, let's carry on. And now, I think we chant for about 3 hours. More than that, 5 hours. And finally, the man whispered in his wife's ears. And then his wife say, oh, come out. And so we went out and say, he said, my husband said, that is it. You can go home. So, okay. So we say, okay, we are relatively relieved. So I went home. And after about 15 days, 1 week, the man passed away. So that was not a time that he should pass away. So we can say that if that patient is already in hospital care, that means any time death is expected. And we can say, oh, well, he may linger on for 5 weeks or for 6 weeks, then he shouldn't be put in hospital care because we don't know. But we do everything possible to make sure that he's dying away with grace, he's dying in the best possible way, in the most comfortable way. And to us who believe in the Buddhist teaching, we want him to go to the Pure Land. And it's very good cause that we can make someone going to the Pure Land. Because if Mr. A, because of our efforts, has gone to the Pure Land, the time in the Pure Land is so, I'm talking about merits and benefits. And it's out of my imagination only. If that man passed away and is to Pure Land, the time there, he spent about 1 year in there. And he could have been enlightened by Amitabha. And to us here, he will come back to save you. He will come back to benefit you. He knows that, oh, this group of people, he helped me out, and I come back to repay them. So they come back to be your teacher. So you have built up a lot of connections, good connections. Finally, you benefit yourself. You think that you just help others without benefiting yourself. Actually, by helping others, you're helping yourself. So it's good to be in the hospital care. Is all flattery wrong? Sometimes one wants to genuinely compliment someone for a wholesome act or words. Is that wrong? If someone has done some wholesome act or have spoken some wholesome words, if you don't compliment, if you are already taken the Bodhisattva precepts, you have broken the precept. You know what I mean? It's your duty, it's almost like your precept to compliment him or her, to encourage her, to give her or him the confidence to carry on. If you don't compliment, you're wrong. It's different from flattery. Flattery is you're not telling the truth. You're not being authentic in trying to express yourself. If someone looks like a beggar, you say, you're beautiful. And that's not right. In your mind, you know it's ugly, but you say, you're beautiful. I don't know, you're being sarcastic or you have some other purpose. So flattery is to say something that is not true. But if you're complimenting someone, which you are sure that he has done something right, is not only good, it's highly recommended by the Bodhisattva's precepts manual, by people who have taken Bodhisattva precepts. So you have to compliment. It's not wrong, it's right. Flattery is you're exaggerating it. And flattery also contains a double tongue connotation. You tell Mr. A that Mr. B is terrible, and then you tell Mr. B that Mr. A is terrible. You're using a double tongue. Double tongue could be very harmful to people, to colleagues, to family members. So flattery is not, it's wrong, but compliment is not wrong. Next question, when chanting the great compassion mantra, does it matter if we are not in unison? It is hard to keep up when it's chanted so fast. When you are chanting if you go too slowly, a lot of thoughts tend to come into your chanting. For example, if you're chanting Namo Ratnataraya Namo, oh, you think about lunch. You think about Namo Arya Balakitesvaraya. Oh, I like the tiramisu. So you're letting thought intruding into your mind because you've been very sluggish and slow that you allow thoughts to come in. Whereas if you are being fast, then it's difficult for thoughts to come to attack you. It's difficult for thoughts to come through you. So it's relatively better to chant faster than slower. And also in your circumambulation, when you're walking, if in some meditation hall, not just walking, you have to run. When you're running, you're under pressure to concentrate in your running that no other thoughts will come into you. Because if you don't concentrate in your running, you'll bump into someone. Or you'll kick your chair's legs, you kick a meditation stool. So you really have to be you really have to be conscious or mindful of what you're doing. So if you're walking very slowly, then you may allow thoughts to come in. However, there's another practice which deliberately take the slow motion and control the thought. How do they do that? In the Theravada school, they walk very, very slowly. And when they walk very slowly, they concentrate on the movement. Now my foot is landing on the floor. My heel, my right heel is touching the floor. Now at the same time, my left toes are touching and my left heel is rising. And then now the sole of my feet on the right foot is landed flat on the floor. Then my heel is getting up. So that kind of school of meditation breaks down the movement into minute details. But they have those descriptions to occupy their mind. Now my toes are on the floor, now it's slowly rising. Now I'm striving into another step. They do it very, very slowly and they concentrate into every minute movement. Why did they do that? No other thoughts will come in. They're contemplating on the slow motion. Some people do it like that and some people find it very effective. But if you are not conscientious, you're doing it slowly, then first of all you get annoyed because habitually you don't walk that slow. You have to be faster than that. So when chanting the Great Compassion Mantra, it is better to be in unison, the same, all the voices are together because the energy vibrates. There's a lot of vibration going on, and if you are in harmony, everybody at the same time, it would also induce other people to chant. So chanting is not to whisper. Don't just whisper. Whisper in your mind is not right. You have to voice it out. Voice out the chanting. Some people are deliberate. Some people are habitually lazy, because by chanting you have to use energy. So if you're habitually lazy, you let other people to toil their tone. How do I care? Especially when you're chanting in a group. We used to have monks and nuns chanting. For example, for some layman who passed away, chanting in a funeral service, or doing a ceremony, and in some cases, in some communities, that kind of rituals have developed into quite a commercialized connotation. So in other words, somebody passed away and they hire a few monks or nuns to go on in the funeral to do certain rituals, and they have to negotiate about a price. How much per person? 500? No, 1,000. 1,500. They negotiate. Some people like that. They get them to be commercialized. And who are those monks and nuns? Well, some of them, they may be impersonators. We don't know. There's so many kinds of personalities in this world. They may not be true, authentic monks and nuns. They just adorn on monks and nuns' vestments, and they are pretending. They shave their head. It's easy to shave their head now. It's in fashion. Before, shaving heads is not in fashion. Who would like to shave a head? In the 50s and 60s, if you shave your head, it's not good. I don't know when it becomes a fashion. I don't know. Maybe it starts with the entertainment circle. A great big actor or actresses shave their head, and then all of a sudden everybody follow. So if you judge whether a certain person is a monk or not just by looking at their head, you're wrong. They're not the same. And even if they're wearing the same vestments, they may not be true monks and nuns. Don't take it for granted. When I was in Hong Kong, even just about 2 years ago, on the subway, at the entrance to the subway, there used to be a monk carrying a bowl and then using a stick to hit the gong. Dong. Spectacles, silver linings, spectacles, trimmed very nicely. The clothes, the vestments, very absolutely clean. And standing in there, and people deposit $5, $10, $20 into the bowl. And he looks gorgeous. He looks like it's very clean. And then there was a reporter who was interested in seeing what happened. After he changed position, changed his vestments. They follow, and they know that they have a van coming to pick him up. And in the van, there's a few other monks too. And when they're in the van, they take off the vestments and put on ordinary clothes. They're not true monks. Because every day, if they stand in there for 5 hours, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 could have deposited into the bowl. And it's better than working. They don't have to work. So, why do I sidetrack from the question to this? Sometimes I don't know why I sidetrack. Chanting, yes, about chanting. So in those funerals, if you're being lazy and you don't chant and let other people chant and you still make the money, and the contractor in the group say, I'm not going to get you next time. I'm not going to call you up for the service. You don't have the business anymore. You know what I mean? They have to watch everybody to make sure that you have to voice out. You have to produce some sound. So they have to learn it. So chanting in harmony, you need that. If it